Welcome to Urban Fantasy PH. We are creatives who live in an urban society and give readers wish fulfillment by way of our stories, which is fantasy but reflective of reality. Here, we get to talk to fellow creatives like writers, authors, artists, comic book creators, filmmakers, you name it. We create and share our art here in the Philippines as well as abroad. My name is CJ Edmunds, I'm your host, and here is today's episode. Good morning, fellow bookworms, book hoarders, book lovers, and creatives. It is another Wednesday, and that means we got a new episode for you all today. This is episode 37 of the podcast, and like always, and during an ongoing season, our show is aired every Wednesday. That's both for Spotify as well as on YouTube. You have the option to listen or watch us. The choice, I leave it in your hands. And whether you're watching or listening, please click the subscribe button, and you can ring the bell so you do not miss a single episode, especially when a new one comes along. Now, all of our past episodes are all ready for you to listen to or watch chronologically if you are listening to us for the very first time. Now, gone are the days of matchy-matchy. Nah, di na uso. This is true in fashion and also in life, especially when it comes to one's calling. Because, sometimes whatever we took up in college may not exactly be the life calling that you answered or the profession that you currently are in. Now, some people may ignore that calling, while others can do both if you are lucky. Now, speaking of luck, our guest seems to have done that, and we are so lucky to have him on the show today. He is a family physician by profession, and when he is not seeing patients at his clinic or during house calls, you probably would find him, let's see, at a basketball court shooting hoops. You might probably find him on a beachfront. I don't know if he has a rest house somewhere, beachfront that we can use for writers retreat. I don't know. We can ask him. He can also be found in a public park. If a park in the year to come will be named after him, well, we will find out about that. Now, if ever siya lang ganyan, mayabang siya. Or probably in a karaoke bar. So we are told that writing is his passion, and he hopes to deliver a message of hope and love to everyone who reads his book. Now, from the sounds of it, he certainly has his multitasking skills down pat. And if he has any tips, for sure he is more than willing to share, and for sure I'm more than willing to learn from him. Let's bring him in and say hello and welcome to Dr. Raymond Oliver Aquino Cruz. Hello, Doctor.
Hello, and good morning to everyone, and happy Wednesday. I hope you're in good health, and yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here, CJ. It's really an exciting thing to talk about. Of course, the book and whatever things will come our way. Then
That's right. That's right.
we'll do it.
Well,
Let's do it.
yeah. Oh well. Thank you first for taking the time off. I know that you have a very busy schedule, and so time is of the essence. And thank you so much that you get to spend it here with us. I first saw your book in the Paper Cat Books website, but I got to meet you personally for the first time as well. Of course, during last year's Paper Cat Books event, which is called "You Should Be Writing." And shout out to Miss Kathy Stacuderla of Paper Cat Books. Woohoo! And we can't wait to see what's in store for us readers and fellow writers. Congrats on the success of Paper Cat Books and all other projects that you have recently announced for 2024. Iba talaga si Miss Kat. Dere-derecho. Idol. I'm not sure if this was your first Paper Cat Books event or author-centric events, but I was wondering, could you tell us how the experience was to meet new readers as well as those who are familiar with your work? And perhaps how does that experience enrich you as a creative?
If you're a writer, you don't really get to see the other side. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the people will just interact with your book. So having events like that where you really see who are probably reading your books or whatever, if you are also the one reading the books of other authors, it's quite a thrill to see uh, the person behind the writing. And I think that was the general sentiment of everyone there. It was a one of the biggest events of paper cat books, and it was also a very nice venue. A lot of people came,
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
and yeah, a lot of people enjoyed, and more than the selling of books and merchandise. I think it was the general atmosphere of camaraderie that came in that really made
I
it
agree.
memorable. Yeah,
I agree. I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, we were all tired, but seeing readers flock to fellow authors' table, or it's more like if you've heard of this particular author, I don't know where they are. Oh, just go right on the other lane. Two tables down, you'll find them there. So it's there was no. I liked what you said, and it was certainly true for me as well for that day. There was no ego involved. Everyone was supportive of one another, and that really is how a creative community should be, right? There should be no backbiting or whatever. I mean, we all do different things, and regardless if we're adept of what the other person is doing, or we're sticking to our own field, the mere fact that we are all creatives and that people come to us, and our work interests us, and that we get to sort of like show them to the next table right across us or beside us is testament enough. I'm not sure if that was your first Paper Cat Books event or author centric event, but uh,
yeah. It was. It
it was.
was the first event, I think, of that magnitude. Of course, we had
Okay.
some meetups, but
Hmm.
something like that was the first time. Paper Cat Books had other events, but that was the first time that I attended such an event.
Oh, okay. But before cons and author conventions, becoming the usual norm these days, the usual place where authors get to meet readers is just intimate book signings or specific author centric events. I was wondering, with in your busy schedule, do you get to attend other author centric events, or does
Yeah,
work take up most of your time?
if there's an opportunity, of course, we go to those events because number one, the books are cheaper, and yeah, if there is a book sale, of course, or a big event. But more than that, it's really meeting people that's really memorable during those signing events, and then you get to interact with individuals who think alike, and then you
Hmm.
get to exchange ideas, and you might even get ideas of your own. So, if you're a writer, you're a reader. It's a sort of a melting pot, right? You try to
Yeah,
to find time in order to participate in those events.
exactly. We sort of like we sort of uh, metamorphosize into a sponge. Apart from being a selling creative, and then we just absorb every form of input that we can take. Give it to us, and we'll milk it for what it's worth. And who knows, it might actually come up in our books.
It's
Speaking of work,
mhm.
yeah.
It's
Speaking of
very
work,
so
sorry, go ahead.
about the work that I do. Of course, uh, a lot of physicians actually are also into writing.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, there are also a lot of stories that can be written by physicians. Unfortunately, maybe the time constraints, the busy schedules prevents them from doing it.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
if you'll notice, even in Netflix, you have a lot of storylines now dealing with medicine and medical dramas, and they're
True.
doing well. So yeah, I would like to see more physicians really go into writing. Uh, they have a lot of stories to tell. They have a lot to educate people on, of course, and I think it would be really good for the writing community to have more of them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You are a family physician, as we mentioned in the intro, and what's the difference between? I mean, this might come off as a a dumb question, but just to kind of like, for
No,
my own curiosity, what would be the main difference between, let's say, a family physician and a general practitioner? Is it because you're a
yeah.
family physician, your clients are more centered to family, while a general practitioner is basically anybody? Is that the main difference?
I think the main difference, number one, a family physician is really a specialist
Mm-hmm.
who tries to look into an illness in its totality. Uh, if you're a physician, sometimes there is a tendency for you to look at a person as uh, I'll just treat this person and that's it. I won't
Okay.
really have to think about the community that this person goes with or the individuals whom this person is living with. Okay? And the all of those factors, those psychosocial factors, will have to come into consideration in order for you to have a treatment modality that is holistic.
Mm.
So disease is not just something that is medical or something that you feel. The people around you also contribute to the healing process. Your family, your friends, where you live, the
Mm-hmm.
community you are in. So we also look into that. So if we can modify things within the family, how the food is prepared, how the interactions happen, if there are ever any barriers to communication within the family, in the
Okay.
community, are there any toxins that are present? Is
Mm.
the household in need of something that will prevent more illness from happening? Like if it is not very clean, or if there
Mm-hmm.
is radiation that is being emitted from somewhere, you look into those things so
Okay.
that the patient will not really go to you. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, you want that because you're getting professional fees, but are you really being effective? I think effective healthcare comes from really looking into all of those details so that there will really be an improvement. So we will have some changes with the healthcare practice soon because maybe you have heard of the concept of universal healthcare, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of things to talk about with that. And the practice of family medicine is soon going to be at the forefront of all of those changes in the healthcare sector.
Right. Well, I'm sure you'll be the first person to know of these things because you have a front row seat in it, and whatever changes you will be the first person to feel them, for sure. Being a practicing physician,
Yeah,
did
it's
you always want
really
it to
very,
be? Mhm.
yeah, it's really very, as I said, it's changes going to happen with regards to the healthcare system. And we hope those changes will really help, especially those who do not have a lot of access, who do
Mhm.
not have the means to really spend a lot on healthcare because I don't know what your experience with health and disease is with family, friends, or what you could hear, but I'm sure you've had maybe heard some horror stories, you've read them. And those are the things that I think physicians must address, not just family physicians, but
Mhm.
everyone in general, and everyone in healthcare should also participate in making those improvements. We have COVID. Of course, COVID really exposed a lot of things with regards to our limitations. And I hope those experiences have taught us a lot of things, no? Especially for those who are in a position to change things, our
Yeah.
politicians, our physicians, and
Right.
just about everyone, I think, has
I
had
agree.
some experiences with disease now that the pandemic is over.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned change, and we all know that change will always be there, whether we adhere to it or not, whether we invoke it or not. But from a normal citizen to someone in the medical field,
Mhm.
how does a doctor handle change? do you
It's
do you put on like, no, 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 wait, I can handle change because not only am I a doctor but I'm also creative, so give me my other hat, so suot ko yung dalawang yan. I will wear both of those hats, and I will face change, head on. So,
Yeah. Yeah, the funny thing is that when we go to a doctor, right? It's like we're so dependent on that person to tell us what to do. And I think the norm now is really you have to work hand in hand with your doctor. You have to tell them what you want. And then the doctor will also have to listen to that and
mhm.
work out a treatment regimen that will be acceptable to both. I cannot impose, for example, the treatments that I want if that person is not really amenable to it for some reason.
Okay.
Could be financial, could be because of beliefs.
Hmm.
So today, one of the changes that is going to happen really with the advent of everything is already in the internet. Everybody is educated. Everybody has an idea what's good or bad. So you really have to go into what do you know, and then with what you know or what you believe in, then maybe let's work out a plan that will be beneficial for you, because you're the one who's going to be the beneficiary of whatever treatment modality will be provided by the physician or the hospital.
Hmm.
So I think that's one important change that must happen. More participative people in healthcare, telling doctors what they really want and what they really feel, so that there will be better outcomes in the future.
Right, right. The lines of communication would obviously have to
Yeah.
be really clear and free of any hindrance. And if there is any looming hindrance on the horizon, that also needs to be addressed. Did you
You know what?
always want to be a doctor growing up?
No.
that
You won't believe what I wanted to be.
answer was fast.
No, this was not what I really planned. But well, this is where I was placed. I wanted to be an Olympic athlete. Would you believe?
Oh,
But well, it's not really my destiny. I used to be the runner for 50-meter and 100-meter sprints, high jumps and
nice.
long jumps. Yeah, so that was my event growing up. But just didn't pan out, and the medical career started knocking. So I'm here now.
Yeah, and we're all the better for it that you answered the knock and you didn't, turn a blind ear to the knocking of that particular door. Do your patients know that you write poetry, and at the risk of violating doctor-patient confidentiality, did any of them inspire you or at least one of your poems in your book?
Uh,
Oops.
well, yeah, I don't really try to advertise that I have a book whenever I have clinical encounters.
Okay, okay.
It's I know it. I don't really think that it's going to be the proper thing during those moments.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But in terms of inspiration, it's not just with the patients. Now, with everything that happens to you, those you can get inspiration from just about anything. The important thing is maybe you have an emotional attachment to it, or maybe it tickles something in your imagination, or it hits a certain emotion.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens, that's when the inspiration to write or the inspiration to be creative comes in. And it can come in at any moment.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
Oh yeah.
anytime. Maybe just upon waking up, then you get that inspiration. It just happens. It just strikes you.
Before coffee. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine that? Inspiration hitting you before coffee. Naantok ka
Agree.
pa. Antok na antok
Uh,
pa. Mata mo ayaw dumilat. But
yeah,
an idea just hits you. And well, these days you can just get your if you're like too tired or too drowsy in the morning to type anything up, you can just get your phone, record your ideas there, and at least you're confident for the day that you have it there recorded somewhere in your phone. Just make sure that you transcribe it somewhere, so that if in case your
yeah.
phone
You always have to have a pen and paper ready, or your phone, so that you can store those ideas, or else they'll just pass.
Oh yeah, that is so true. That's so true. Would you remember perhaps when the written word or poetry, to be specific, caught your attention, and maybe members of your family perhaps were avid readers, and maybe it's because of that that your appreciation for the written word or even love of poetry came from there.
Yeah, we have a lot of books at home. So growing up, it was reading was something that was really essential.
Okay.
But I think the thing about poetry is that number one, uh, there's always a lot of emotion attached to it, and sometimes when you are writing in straight prose, you don't get to really express that. And then with poetry also, there's also a lot of interpretation that can happen while an individual is reading it. I, for one, with this, with the book of poetry that I wrote, I want it to be read aloud, because when you're reading it aloud, your own voice reading the book also stimulates a lot of memories, a lot of things that might be happening in your life. And I think that's what's important also with something that's written. You want it to linger in the memory of people,
Hmm.
and you want them to start thinking about what they have just read. You know, it's not like when the book is put down, it's lost in memory.
Yeah.
I think evoking emotion about it and then having the thought process stimulated by reading it is something that I would want to achieve with what I write, so that I want it to linger. I want it to be something that will probably spark a debate in yourself, thinking about your own experiences and maybe making some modifications or improvements when you learn something. So I think that's how I think about what I write with the poetry that I have already presented. So
Would you remember perhaps the first book of poetry that you ever read, and would you still have it?
I don't remember, because poetry was already being read even when I was in grade school. So I studied in Don Bosco, Mandaluyong, and Makati. So we had a lot of reading sessions there, and of course, because it's a Catholic school, you also get to read a lot of Christian and Catholic books, the Bible, of course.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, all of those can be inspirations, but really, reading in general will just be the thing for writers to get started. I don't think we can pinpoint a writer who does not really want to read. I think that's a
True.
prerequisite.
That's right. I mean, all writers started out as readers, and I never thought of it that way up until when I started doing my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, okay, this is the next step. This is the next transition. So I'm allowing the transition to take hold, and just embracing the whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poetry seems to be the most accessible form of writing for most,
Mm-hmm.
as we start composing poems when we were younger, and yet that art form seems not to be as popular as as general fiction. Any thoughts why that seems to be the perception, or maybe perhaps these days the perception regarding poetry seems to be changing as well?
Maybe it's not the natural thing to do when you're expressing something. You know, when you write something, it's just when you're free writing, you're not really thinking of verses. You're not really thinking of stanzas. And sometimes it takes a little more effort to really put those writings with rhyme, with the correct sequence.
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
mm-hmm.
and then listening to it while you're reading it, it's like the rhyme comes into a song, and then it's even more challenging when you're trying to write poetry and telling a story at the same time. That's actually what Shakespeare achieved, right? And Actually, the
Yes.
book I wrote is a story that's told in poetry form. So if you will read it in its entirety, you will see that it actually has a story. And I think the challenge there is how do you weave a story into poetry? Shakespeare has achieved it, of course. There are some individuals who are also capable of doing that. And that's the challenge. Uh, it's easy to write poetry that will just concentrate on one topic and then you move on to the next. But to weave it
Right.
into a story is something that's really going to stretch your imagination. So
True. True.
I
That's
think that's a
the
good
challenge
challenge.
there. Yeah. So usually when we say poetry, the number one word that comes to mind was rhyme. That there has to
Yeah,
be rhyme. If there's no rhyme, then that's something else. Do you still run across? Do you still come into contact with people who feel that poems should have a rhyming scheme, or free verse is definitely
yeah. This is
the now the
the now
trend
is
now?
fevers really. If you ask those who write poetry these days, it's not necessarily going to be like before when you
Mm-hmm.
really need to have specific stanzas and the words must rhyme together. It's just that when you write it, you feel like there is a flow to it, and even with the songs that are being written, it's not like before, right? The classical songs wherein there always needs to be a rhyming verse at the end. So today it's no longer like that. Maybe that's the influence of what rap music or or
Yep.
hip hop or whatever. Yeah, a lot of things. No? So that's the modern way of writing poetry now. But
Right. Right.
really the
And
important
rap
thing,
in a way is poetry when you think about
yeah,
it.
yeah, rap is
Poetry,
poetry
yes, rap. The kind of poems that just comes out in
spontaneously. Yeah,
at a speed that
yes,
is not for all
at the
human
speed of thought,
beings.
and then you just blurt it out, right? So
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You just spew it
that's
out.
it.
True, true,
So
true.
before you really need to think about it, and then you write it, and then you rewrite it when it does not feel right. Now it's more spontaneous. So I think those influences have made poetry different from what it used to be. But either way, as long as you're able to convey what you want and the reader understands and feels it, I don't think
Hmm.
there's any problem with those changes.
Yeah, whether it's rhyme or no rhyme, as long as you get the message across, then you know, job done. Well, if poets like yourself keep trading out books for readers, for sure, the perception will turn towards your favor, rhyme or not. So let's get to the book. As we said, it is. I hope you guys have it. But if you have not have a copy, if you don't have a copy yet, the book is called. Diba? Sabay pa kami. Yeah,
Yeah,
we raised the book at the same time. The book is called Unrequited. Diba? Title
yeah.
pa lang, masasaktan na
Unrequited,
kami.
unrequited, yeah.
Yeah. Title pa lang, sakit na, Just the title alone, just like, oh God, it's a, knife in my heart. But I was wondering, how did you come up with the title? And were there other titles perhaps that you were considering?
Yeah, I really thought of this because when you get to read it, it's like, uh, yeah, it's just a typical, maybe a typical teenager or young adult falling in love and having those emotions crushed because of various circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing here is, the flow is something that you must look into because in the end, it actually has a very important lesson that we must always remember. Sometimes we get hooked into a lot of things in our lives. We are looking for happiness. We're looking for something or someone who will be able to fill in our needs. When in fact, when you try to really analyze it in the end, you already have everything that you need. You're just not really looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you're just not communicating with the proper individuals who might give you what you need. So
Okay.
I won't spill the beans so that you will get to read the book, because it says here, right? The answers we seek have always been there since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are those answers? And I think that's something that must be looked into whenever we have things that we don't understand with what's happening, and we're getting frustrated because sometimes uh, too uh, we're too engrossed with our difficulties that we tend to forget the blessings that we have. So
Right.
yeah,
I,
I
I,
won't
I,
spill the
I
beans.
we're not going to be spilling the beans. I like that you said that the answers we know have always been there, and that's a plus for the answers. But what if the person is not asking the right questions? And he's not going to get the answers either, right? So
Yeah,
you also that person also knows how to frame their question so that they will be directed to the answer that will befit that particular question, right?
yeah. I
and
think the
and
message here is sometimes even if you don't ask the question, the answer will be given to you by hook or by crook.
and if you don't like the answer to your question,
And if you
well,
don't like to the answer to your question, you will still discover that the answer is very important in order to improve your life.
yeah, because it's still a
Yeah.
message. It is
Yes.
it whether you want to listen to it or not, it is still a message.
Yes.
I noticed that the copyright year was 2020. So I was wondering,
Yes.
did you finish the book before lockdown, or were you also were you also writing it during the lockdown on top of being
Before the
a
lockdown, I
frontliner?
was already starting it, but I wasn't really thinking much of the structure because I was also busy. But of course, after the lockdown, you have a lot of time. You're just at home, and that's when things started to flow. And of course, my publisher Cap really helped a lot in conceptualizing and really organizing my thoughts on this. And so this is the product, and it's nice to say that this is the product of the pandemic, which many of us think we were very unproductive during that time, right? But really, if you just try to think of ways of being productive, even in the most dire of circumstances, of course, as a physician, it's very hard when there is a pandemic because your family members, your friends will keep pestering you and asking you a lot of questions about it, right? And
Yeah,
then when
yeah.
they are feeling certain symptoms, they'll tell, is this it? Is this COVID? What am I gonna do next? Am I gonna die? All of those things. So there are a lot of psycho-emotional aspects. There are a lot of uncertainties during that time. And
Hmm.
yeah, I'm sure everyone who passed through it knows what those moments were and how they reacted to it. And then the uncertainties of the vaccine, will it work? Will it make
Ah,
things
yeah.
worse? All of those things. It's good that we're now past that, but looking back, there were a lot of, again, unanswered questions during that time.
True,
So
true, true,
yeah,
true.
so it's good
Uh,
that we're now here. Yeah.
yeah. During the lockdown, for some creatives, there was a surge of ebook sales, and
Hmm.
I'm sure a lot of creatives also pushed themselves to be creative during the lockdown, having been confined to just our respective living spaces. So I was wondering, what got you through when it came to your creativity and productivity during the lockdown?
Yeah, I think it's just number one. When Kat was talking to me, she was really setting some deadlines. You have to do this by this time. So
Okay,
I think
so
having
deadlines
someone,
work.
yeah,
Dead
deadlines really work.
deadlines are helpful.
They will really make the world go round, because if you do, if it's open ended, even if you have the best ideas, if you don't target a date for completion for following up on things, it
Hmm.
really is just a written piece of paper there somewhere in your house. So I think it's important that there is really a set deadline and you really try to work on that deadline so that you can get a finished product. That's just how it is. It should
All right.
be a time bound thing. so that it
Yes.
will come to completion.
Or else you will keep postponing the deadline.
Yes, and if the deadline gets postponed, nothing gets finished. That's true.
I agree. I agree. Reading the book, I also saw that you divided the poems into three different sections. Was that an intention when you first wrote it, or did it just grow out of it when you were writing the poems?
Yeah. Part of it was I also intended it to have sections because I wanted to emphasize the emotions that were present for each section. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the thrill of happiness and then despair, and then the answer to why there is happiness and despair in the end, and then putting it all together and having a positive mindset moving forward after that. It's actually,
In spite of what happened,
in
yes.
spite of what happened, you still end up being happy and learning from it. I think those are the things that we always go through in life. We go through some exhilarating moments, we go through some down moments, and then in the end, that's when we realize, why did we experience these exhilarating and down moments? How do we make sense of this? And so sometimes the answer comes in the end, and when we realize it, it's something that changes us. So I think that's the gist of the having it segmentized like this.
Yeah. Well, let me name the sections. They are as follows. First
Mhm.
segment is Love is Beautiful, followed by Love is Painful, and on
Mhm.
to the final one, Love is Hopeful.
Mhm.
Were these sections named by you and not by, or suggested by Kat, or did you guys like uh,
I was the one who
did it compromise?
conceptualized the
You were the
sections.
one.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. All
yeah.
right.
I thought of it and then had it organized. So you have here the pains that you go through, the happiness when you feel that love is present, and then of course in the end, how did those pains and difficulties get offset by the realizations that you get in the end.
Hmm. Let me randomly choose
Okay,
one poem to read from each section, or
sure.
maybe I'll let you choose there, and then I'll let
Okay,
you read it.
okay. Randomly,
From the first section, so they have a sample
okay.
of how each section is.
Actually, there's another section that you probably failed to uh, to look into. There is a prologue.
Yes, the
It
prologue.
has a prologue. This also has an epilogue, but the prologue is called War in Heaven. So this is supposed to make sense of everything that happened subsequently. So War in Heaven, there once was a fight in heaven among the different brethren. They came to this assembly to plan out for eternity. The leader wants to bear his plan to uplift each and every man. Each spirit shall have flesh and bones and experience all its moans and groans. With this came forth the angel of light, offering things with all his might, that not a soul remains forsaken, as long as all the praise he'll take in. Nobody will be left behind, no pain, no hardship, nothing of its kind. For I ensure that love and life will not result in grief and strife. I think the message here is sometimes you try to think of being dictated upon and everything being given to you as something that's bliss,
Hmm.
meaning you don't really have to make choices for it, you don't really have to work for it. Everything is given on a silver platter, and it's great, right? But I think part of the essence of life is going through all of those struggles, and that is when you get to appreciate your freedom, because sometimes freedom is an underappreciated thing. When we when we lose our freedom, that's when we feel that really something is lost. That's why a lot of people lose their lives in order to fight for freedom. So sometimes you have to think about whether it's really a good thing that everything is being given to you easily without you having to work for it, instead of you having to make choices first in order to get what you want.
Hmm.
So that's a very important message also, because sometimes we want things to be easy on us, but when things get easy, and then suddenly you're given some difficulties, you don't know how to respond.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I
So
agree. Everybody is a well. When we're born, we're all diamond in the rough. We need to be polished. We need to be
yeah,
chiseled a bit. So that at the end of the
that
day,
brings out the best in us, right?
bring
When
yeah,
we are
exactly. It brings out the best in everyone. Yeah, I agree. I agree. When fiction writers write, they either adhere to, let's say, a word count of the day or the time they spent writing for the day. When you were writing the book, did you sort of set a personal quota for yourself to trace your productivity? Like maybe three poems in a day. That's a good number for me, and or even at the
no,
very least two. Parang ganyan.
no. But of course, I was already thinking of when should I finish this or when should I push it. And the thing is, another very important thing. Sometimes you want perfection, but the
Hmm.
perfection will never happen. What will just happen is you just have to finish it and be satisfied that you did your best. Because when
Yeah,
you're looking for that perfect thing, that's what, just like when you're looking for the perfect food, the perfect bite, you might not be able to eat and you'll go hungry. So you just grab whatever is there, you feel hungry, you eat it, and you're satisfied. It's also an important thing, it's when you're really trying to look for perfect times, perfect moments, maybe it won't come. So I think it's more important to just act, do it, and then you try to live and learn from the consequences, and hopefully it will turn out for the best.
yeah. Well, the only thing that's I agree with you. There's really no perfect thing and there's really also no perfect book because if there was a perfect book, everybody would be rewriting and rewriting and rewriting and changing things, hoping that the next version that they churn out is the one that's going to be it. And then when they shelve it for a while, and then when they come back and read it, no, 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 this character should not have died, or this character should not have been with this person, or this character should have not said this because this line belongs to the other one that I killed off. So
Mhm.
it will never change. We'll never be done with it. So I agree with regards to perfection, and and I guess when you also say or box in things and say that this is perfect, you're also boxing in your contribution to the flow of things that hanggang dyan na lang yan, hindi ko na kaya ano yan. I mean, I feel that perfection is the state of things or the state of being that is right for that particular moment in time. And in
Just like
that
a
time,
partner, right? You don't have a perfect partner, but there
yeah, yeah,
may
yeah,
be someone who is perfect for you. Yeah, it's also the same thing.
yeah,
So
that's
you will
right.
get to feel that.
Yeah, and there, if we also look for the perfect, the perfect partner, the perfect, the perfect
Perfect
husband,
vacation,
perfect
for
wife,
example.
everything, we'll keep changing. It's not gonna happen. When you think about it, that also might be the reason why a friend of mine keeps changing his job every 3 years. It's like you're changing jobs again. It's like this is like what's
Yeah,
going
maybe
on with
you're looking
you?
for the perfect boss or the perfect
Yeah,
salary. It might not
I
come.
don't, it might, yeah, he might not get it.
Yeah.
So, well, for one thing, I hope he's not watching at the moment because he knows I'm talking about him.
Hello
But,
there. I hope we taught
uh,
you something. Just move
uh,
and do it.
yeah, just accept your choice for the moment and just roll with it. All right. I suddenly remembered something that my mother told me when I was still studying, and that the easiest way to make sure that you commit, let's say, long passages into memory is by repetition and by reading it aloud. And this is where I'm glad that you also mentioned this about reading it aloud because this is also part of the things that I wanted to ask. And this is kind of like a two-part question. You said that you read your own poetry aloud to yourself when you write, and I suppose also when you edit. I was wondering, what did you discover and you learn from yourself when you read them out aloud?
there's a lot of introspection that can happen while you do that. Number one, you hear your own voice,
Mm-hmm.
and so you also get to see how might the other people be perceiving what I am writing by hearing my own voice reading it. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of introspection there, and you will also get to you'll also get to find out how best to improve it, because if you're reading it and it doesn't feel right, then you know that you should make some edits for it, because you yourself you read it, and supposedly, when you're reading something that you really did for yourself, you think it's always perfect, right? So when you feel that it's not right, then probably the other people will also see that it's probably not going to sound right. We
Right.
have
Trust
that
your
we have
emotions.
those blinders when we're dealing with our own works, right? And so we should always also have other people look into what we do, so that they will give us some concrete criticism, and that
Mm-hmm.
would be the best way to find improvements also.
Did you, when you were done with the book, did you automatically, show people that, my manuscript is done or these collection of poems are done? Can you read it, or did you like kind of shelve them for a bit before you yourself went back again and read them for for what it's worth?
I actually asked some friends and those close to me to give their perspective on it. So yeah, I think that's also important. We also live uh, abhorring feedback, especially if it's if it's negative, right? But it's those things that will really make us better people. So we just have to accept it and then try to make adjustments, especially if those people are well-meaning, and they will
Mm-hmm.
not really tell you something that's going to be bad for you, right? So
Yeah.
unless, of course, you listen to the proper people. If those individuals whom you listen to don't really care much, like what happens in social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just post something there, and then somebody from out of the blue just starts criticizing it, and then you feel bad about it. You have to look at it like, wait, this person does not know me, so does this person really care about what they are saying or what they are criticizing about? So you should really listen to the right people when you're getting that, so that you will really see if the feedback is proper and if there
Yeah.
really has to be changes that you need to make.
Exactly. I mean, you don't want to have someone critique your book and by giving it to a non-reader. Obviously
Yeah,
you're not going to get the feedback that you want or the feedback that you need in order
yeah.
to spruce up your writing. The right kind of person to give you the right kind of feedback matters. um if, let's say, also, would there be, if we have, let's say, any aspiring poets out there who may be listening or watching us at the moment, and if they feel that their creativity really is leaning towards poetry and maybe not fiction, any books of poetry or poets that they should be reading or be schooled by?
I didn't really write poetry by reading reading about specific poets.
Hmm.
But what's more important is not just to read poetry, but actually to start writing. Uh, if you're just reading it uh, without really creating something for yourself, you won't really get to have a finished product. So
Hmm.
if that's what you want, to really come up with a written book, then just start writing. You don't really need to get inspiration from anything or anyone or from any piece of writing. I'm sure Vincent van Gogh did not look at other paintings in order to come up with these masterpieces. Maybe he looked, but what he did was he really got that paintbrush and tried to create a finished product. I think once you get an idea, the thing is when you're trying to pattern yourself with what other people are doing, you lose your originality. So
Hmm.
it's not really that important that you try to, maybe you try to assimilate the good things, But the bottom line is you have to come up with your own style and not really try to imitate what others are doing because it might not also fit your personality and your skill.
Yeah,
So that's it. Just keep
true, true.
writing and just keep going at it.
And in a way, that's also how you handle writer's block, I think, right? I mean,
Mhm.
if the that little spark of inspiration is there, try to devote some time to it, right? I mean, if it takes just 3 minutes to write down the idea, type it on your cell phone or record it as a voice message, and that's okay. And come back to it at the end of the day, perhaps, or the day after when you have more time on your hands, and then
And make sure that you set a
expand it.
deadline.
That's
I
another
like
thing.
that.
Yes, deadlines do work. Exactly, exactly. If there's anything that we're taking away from this particular episode is that deadlines do work.
Work.
Okay, so if in case you feel that deadlines are something that you can postpone, try not to do that too often, because
You
you'll
won't
never
finish
finish.
anything.
Yeah, you won't
You'll
finish
just be
anything.
dreaming and dreaming. I hope I have a
True.
book. It's been 10 years. You still don't have one because you don't set a deadline to finish it. So finish
Yeah,
it
that's
now.
right.
Do it.
I was wondering what would also be, let's say, perhaps the biggest lesson or wake up call that you have after learning and accepting yourself as being someone who's creative, and has sort of become a life lesson to you moving forward that you can share with other aspiring creatives out there.
Yeah, I think everyone can be creative. We were all born to be creative. It's just that probably we're just not noticing it, or probably because of the busyness of life, we don't seem to really see how gifted and talented we all are. But if we really try to put our heart into what we are doing, then we will come up with something that probably a lot of people can learn from and be inspired from. So just I think one of the things that makes us human is our ability to be creative. So anybody can do it, and it's just that you really have to put in the effort in order for you to come up with something.
Yeah. And I guess when you were, and one thing I want to add to that, a little caveat, is when you are starting on your journey, also try not to compare yourself with other people's output, because that can also be something that can, if you let it, and if you're not consciously aware, it might also be the one that drags you down and saying that, oh, I haven't done anything, but this person right here has created 10 volumes already. Don't compare yourself to others, right? Each person will have their own process. Each person will have their own time frame, so your own time frame is yours. So
Yeah,
try, do not fall
do
into the
not be
trap of,
intimidated. Yeah,
yeah, the trap of what's that word, comparisonitis.
yeah. Comparison. Yeah, if
No,
you're
no,
going to
no.
think about it, if I were thinking that I'll be the next Shakespeare, I have to write something of that magnitude in order to come up with a written poetry book. It probably will never happen because Shakespeare is Shakespeare, and you really have to be not so cruel to yourself.
Yeah,
You have to be appreciative of also your limitations, and then just try to do something which you feel like doing, and if you think it will be helpful for other people, then you don't really have to be limited by comparing yourself to maybe this is not too good. I don't want this to be seen in bookstores because someone might pick it up and say it's trash. You don't think about those negative things, or else you
yeah.
really won't come up with anything.
And if you kind of like hear things like that from people in your circle, then maybe try and stay away from them for a while you're doing your own thing, while you're finishing your art, right? And then when you're done with your manuscript, sampalin mo sila.
Kaya mo nga sa pala, ibenta mo na lang sa kanila, kumita ka
Ay,
pa.
ay, ay, pwede, pwede, pwede. Yeah, yeah. Oo, masyado naman yata tayong violent sa sampal. Sige, bentahan mo na lang. Oh boy. Any specific time of the day for you to write? I mean, do you write more at night when everything is quiet, or do you, as they say in this handbook called the Artist's Way, do you do your morning pages? You know.
It really depends on individuals. I, for one, I think my brain works better at night.
Okay.
It's a little different for me, but for anyone, you have to just find out what time of the day you're most productive, because we're all created differently. We all have different time frames, and we all have different biological clocks, so to speak.
True. True.
So
True.
just
True.
try to identify that, and when you do, then you work through that. If you think you're
Yeah.
more productive in the morning, then that's when you start really the process. Do it in the morning. Don't wait
Hmm.
at night, because by that time you might not have the energy anymore. But you have to know
Yeah.
yourself and
Exactly.
try to
Exactly.
discover it. Yeah.
And and part of refining that process is finding out which time really is better for you. Do you any rituals before you write? Perhaps some people light candles, some people play music, some people dim the lights.
No, I think it's more important for me that there's not a lot of noise or distractions also. Unless
Okay.
those distractions spring something in your mind that inspires you. But
Hmm.
mostly, maybe because I wrote poetry. I think the most productive things happened when there weren't really a lot of distractions in terms of auditory distractions.
Right. Right.
But visually, when you're seeing good landscapes, when a relaxing atmosphere, that would also help. You
True.
really can't write when there's someone yelling at you, or when you're watching, or when you're
Do the
watching
dishes.
violent.
Maglaba ka na.
When someone's bugging you like that, I don't think you will get to have a finished product.
It's like,
Those things also, they're also
Daddy,
very important.
Daddy, where's my toy? You promised
Yeah,
me last week.
yeah. So try to really get that quiet time. Yeah, men, or maybe even women, they have their own enclaves at home. So if you find that spot, then if it's comfortable for you, then stay there and do your thing.
Yeah, if you must, and I've tried this, riding in the car
Mm.
basement, very very productive because
I think that's true.
no one's there to bug you. I mean,
Yeah,
you're all there with your laptop open and just churn your ideas out and just type away. And sometimes you get carried away and you're like, oh,
yeah,
I've gotten past my word count of 1,000 or 1,500 words a day, and I'm good. Solved. Okay,
yeah,
pwede na akong absent.
yeah. Just
Yeah,
keep writing. It will just come out, and don't think of grammar or whatever, or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you try to structure it immediately, you won't get to write anything. So just keep on writing. Just try to finish it, and then at the end, you read it again, and that's when you try to edit it. I think that's also something that will resolve writer's block. Again, we can't expect a perfect piece of writing on the first draft
Yeah, no
within a
one's
few.
first draft is perfect.
It's very difficult, but it's even more difficult to work on something if you haven't written it yet. So just try to write it first, and then
True.
do the editing and the improvements later.
Exactly. Are you currently working on anything new? Book two, perhaps?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking of there's the problem is I haven't set a deadline yet because the pandemic is over, and the things that I have to do are there. But really, it's already in my mind to expound more on the ideas. I think there are a lot of other stuff that I would like to be able to elucidate on.
Hmm.
Uh, Most of them are quite philosophical, but if you think about it, there it's also very important that you're able to identify them because they are crucial life lessons. So just look for that. Maybe I'll give myself maybe in the next year or two to
Hmm.
come up with that. I'll talk to Kat about it when I come up with it, so
Cool.
that we can have a
I
second book,
and,
hopefully.
and I will be in the first in line to get what follows
Thank you,
after
thank
this.
you.
That's for
Yeah,
sure.
thank
That's
you
for
very
sure.
much.
What are you currently reading? Perhaps
Right now,
was it within your
there are a
arm's
lot of
length?
books that are probably there on my. But this one, you might be surprised,
Your TBR pile.
just beside my bedside.
Wait, what is that? That
Jeff
is.
Bezos and the Age of Amazon.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I was gonna say Amazon because I saw that loop at
Yes,
but it didn't come out clearly. So I go, okay, all right.
yeah, this is just beside me. I also read some, books on business management. I find it quite interesting to get ideas from these individuals who are really very successful in what they do and how they get inspired to do the things they did and what are the challenges. So it's nice to learn from them, and
Mhm.
when you do learn from them, you can apply it in what you write. uh, I think the thing with books also is I like a book that I can learn something new from, and whatever that price is, if I learn something from that book, even if it is priced quite high, I think it's worth the price because I learned something from it. So most good books really do that. No? They give
Yeah.
you fresh perspectives, and I think that should inspire also everyone to write because everybody has something unique to share. So share that unique thing, because when they get your book and they learn something from it, then you would have helped someone get better. So just do it. Just keep writing.
Profoundly true.
Yeah.
Consider every book an investment, not
Mm-hmm.
an expense.
Agree.
Okay. Yeah, that will change the way that you look at written books. I don't know if you. Let me recommend something. This is also within the line of poetry. I don't know if you are a big fan of the show Supernatural,
Mm-hmm.
or who else is joining us
I,
today.
I I also think of a lot of supernatural things because things like the supernatural and the occult are all around us, and I think
Mm-hmm.
we should make sense of all of those things. So, what do you have to offer, CJ?
I'm recommending this book of poetry
Mm-hmm.
from Misha Collins. He plays an angel in the show Supernatural, and the
Mm-hmm.
book is called "Some Things I Still Can't Tell You." So
Is it in
it's
bookstores or?
yes, it's in
Oh, it's in,
bookstores. I got it from Fully Book. Plugging.
great.
I Fully Book Green
Yeah, yeah.
Hills.
So fully
Favorite.
booked. Thank you, because
Yeah.
this book is actually in fully booked
See,
stores. So
there you go.
just go to Fully Booked and you can look for that book on poetry and also my book. So yeah, go visit your nearest Fully Booked store.
Yeah. All right. And try to get that. So, get Unrequited and get this book from Misha Collins. Misha
Yeah,
Collins, I will tag you. And if you see this,
yeah,
just so
Bishop
you know
Collins.
that you are my favorite character in the show and I love you. All right. So, if in case they want to know more about what you do, Doc, where can they follow you on social media?
Well, I have a social media blog site. I actually write for a foundation. It's called the Root Foundation for
Mm,
Hospice and Palliative Care.
okay.
So you can find my writings on root.ph. I am actually, my name there is the Medical Philosopher.
Medical
So if you,
philosopher. Okay.
yeah, so if you can look at the site root.ph, look for the tab that says Medical Philosopher, and I have some articles written there, mostly, of course, on healthcare and end of life issues. but some are also with regards to other life issues. So do check it out on
Okay.
the Root Foundation webpage.
All right. That's root.ph. Root.
Root.ph.
Right.
RUTH.ph.
Oh, RUTH.
Yeah, Ruth. Ruth. The name Ruth.
Okay, Ruth. Okay, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
RUTH. There you go. I thought it was ROOT. Well, good
No,
good
no.
to know that
RUTH dot
RUTH.
ph. Ruth.ph. Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Raymond Oliver Cruz, for joining us today. That is a
Thank you,
wrap.
CJ. My pleasure. I didn't notice that we've been talking for more than
Yeah,
an
we've been
hour.
talking for more than I promised you that it was only going to be about 45 minutes or so,
Yeah,
but lumampas tayo, and that's
it's
okay.
way past our bedtime.
Yeah, way past our. Well, not for me. I might just go to bed at 1 in the morning. I'm a vampire that way, so which I know I should change my sleeping habits. But nonetheless, I wish you all the best in your
Thank
future
you.
writing endeavors, and may you always be given the chance to impart your experience and your wisdom to other writing creatives out there. All right. Thank you to
Thank you,
Spine
CJ.
Books
Yeah.
for your support since day one, and our new friends over at Nerd Nibbles, of which you can follow them on Instagram, especially if you like mushroom flavored chips. Yeah. If you are a creative and you would like to be featured in the podcast, simply email us at urbanfantasyph@gmail.com. And if you wish to get a copy of Sojourn and Take Me Now, these are two of my books, simply go to the Spine Books Shopee page, and I'll put the links on the show notes as well. Follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and now Threads, and also me at cjedmunds.com. Till the next episode, enjoy the rest of the week, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Indie Creatives Unite. Keep creating, keep reading, and that's what we're going to be doing as long as you create. Stay safe, stay creative. Namaste, and blessed be. Thank you, Doc. You have a good one. That was another episode of Urban Fantasy PH. Join us next time as we feature another creative soul who wants their art to be seen, heard, and shared. If you have your own work to share, just email us at urbanfantasyph@gmail.com. Till the next episode, this is independent author, singer-songwriter, radio personality, voice actor, and fellow creative, CJ Edmunds, reminding you to always listen to your heart, create with your mind, and share with your soul. Goodbye, everybody. Namaste. Blessed be.